Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam, and this is the Sunday garden question and answer video that I have been doing on most Sundays of the month. The first Sunday of every month, I do a Subscriber Sunday video where subscribers send in photos of things in their yard that they're proud of. If you're interested in sending in photos for that, the email address is right here. Like I say, the other Sundays of the month, I do this question and answer video. If you have gardening questions, you can ask them down below, and I will pick from them every week. I think I picked out 12. There were a lot from last week. This video, like I say, is getting more participation every week. I really appreciate everybody tuning into it and like I say, participating in it. And if the question's important to you, ask it again next week. I didn't ignore any on purpose. This time I just went and got the first 12 I saw. They were all good questions, so I didn't even differentiate. I'm sure there were some other good ones as well, but I have to keep these videos to some reasonable length. I got a few things real quick to go over, and then I'll get to the questions for this week. I've redone my Amazon store. I have an Amazon affiliate program. Lots of YouTubers. If you click on links down below of the things that we use in the videos, we get a small percentage of the sale from Amazon. I really appreciate that. I've changed mine over to an Amazon storefront, which I'll link down below, and all the videos in the future will have that storefront. It looks a little bit better. It looks a little more branded for what I do. And it's just the products that I use in the videos. If you're interested in them or buying them as Christmas presents or whatever, a little bit of money from each sale goes to me, doesn't cost you anymore. So thank you very much for that. I also created a $4 off t-shirt promotion that runs through Christmas. I will link that down below. That's on Teespring. But if you go to my Teespring store where I have my t-shirts for the channel, like I say, there's a $4 off. It's HORT4 is the code that you enter at the end, but you get $4 off your order. That's good through Christmas. And then the other thing is my website, horttube.com, is I've had it for a while. I worked on it for a little while. I had some time about a year or so ago, and I put some work into it, but I haven't done much with it since because of all this moving stuff and building sheds and everything else I've had going on. I haven't really spent a lot of time on it, but I am going to commit myself more to it. So when I put up a video of a plant, there'll also be a blog post related to it where might be some additional information in the blog post. Some people might like to read it more than they like to see the video, whatever, but there'll be interlinked information that way going forward. And so down at the bottom of that, there's a form to put your name in and your email address for me to send you. I'm going to start sending out a monthly update. A lot of people have filled that out, have found that website over the last year and have filled that out. So I have quite a few names and email addresses already. But if you're interested in getting, what I'm going to do is send out a once a month email. Read it or don't read it, whatever you want to do. But I'm going to send out a once a month email that just goes through the videos that I did for the last month, and there may be one that you missed that you want to go back and look at, that kind of thing. Just a monthly update. That's what it is. So, okay, on to the questions. I'll stop selling myself and I'll get to the questions here. Somebody asked me about removing leaves from plants when the leaves are falling off in their yard. They have a bunch of native plants and some non-native plants in their yard, but the leaves fall off. They want to know if they should go gather them up. The only time I recommend people gather up the leaves from plants, I like to leave them where they lay. I think it's great mulch. Nature is telling you something there. I laid my leaves down on the ground for a reason, trying to keep my feet warm for the winter time. And so I like to leave them there unless the plant has been sickly in some way. So a good example of that would be like hydrangea macrophylla, big leaf hydrangeas, frequently have leaf spot problems. And so if you have one that every year has bad leaf spot problems, I would go get those leaves out from under them every year when they fall off and dispose of them through your compost bin or something like that and get rid of them because it's just going to bounce back up on the plant. You're likely going to have leaf spot issues every year. You're not going to get it all up, but I think you can lessen it some by getting out those old diseased leaves. So if the plant was under stress, if the plant was has an issue every year, insect problems, disease problems, those kinds of things, get rid of the leaves. If they're healthy, happy plants, leave them where they lay. Okay, somebody asked me about camellias. They had gotten some camellias and planted them before this cold set in. I think it's like, I don't know what the temperature was this morning, but yesterday here in my area, it got down to 23. I put up a video yesterday morning. It had climbed to 25 before I did the video, but it was 23. I think they'll be fine if as long as they're in the ground. Camellias are most susceptible The cold damage that they're going to take is in containers. The roots are just not very good. Everybody that grows camellias in zone 7, 8, and 9 are pretty much putting them in winter protection houses because they just don't like to stay frozen solid. So having them in the ground, I think, was advantageous to you. They mail ordered them from further south than where they are, and so there's some possibility that the plant was a little more awake, and it might take a little bit of burn on the top of it, but it's not going to kill the plant, no problem. Somebody asked me about, they had planted some boxwoods or some beauty berries in Texas and were worried about the cold weather because they had the same kind of thing go through there. I guess it was 23 or so. Boxwoods are hardy up to zone 5 and you're in zone 8 or 9. It's not going to be a problem for boxwoods. It may be too hot in the summertime if it was anything. And beauty berries, you could park your car on them and not kill. So I don't think you ever have a problem planting a beauty berry. Those deciduous shrubs I talked about in a video yesterday, plants that lose their leaves in the winter that are hardier than your area, get them in the ground. You're not going to hurt them, and the winter's not going to hurt them. They're asleep. They're completely asleep. They're smart enough to pull their leaves, get rid of their leaves and completely go to sleep. So you're not going to have any problem with those. Somebody asked me, they had planted some, they're in zone 6, and had planted some Rose Creek Abelia, some Firelight hydrangeas. Firelight is a hydrangea paniculata, like Limelight or like White Wedding, a bunch of them that you've seen me show over time. And some Ilex glabra, which is a native inkberry holly. And then it had gotten dry, and so the plants looked a little tough going into winter, and they were wondering if they should winter protect them. This would be a tough call for me. The Firelight hydrangeas, that's another plant that you're not going to hurt. The cold weather's not going to hurt them. Put them out of your mind. They lost some leaves, no big deal. They're going dormant anyway. The Rose Creek Abelia will likely be fine as well. It's a ground-hugging little evergreen Abelia. Those inkberry hollies that lost a lot of leaves and that kind of thing, you might want to throw a sheet over them if it gets really cold really fast. And it probably already has in zone 6. But going forward, you might want to think about winter protecting them a little bit. They're cold hardy in the zone 6. But like I said, anything that goes into winter already stressed is going to be more susceptible to winter damage. And so keep that in mind. If you've got plants that were stressing all year from being too dry or being newly planted or whatever, know that those plants are the ones that are going to be susceptible to the winter damage. Somebody asked me, they got some big giant shrubs around their yard and wanted to know, whether they could take them down. It is a big list, and I'll go through this list real quick. Quince, which is a late winter flowering shrub. It was in a tour video I did. It happened to be blooming like a week ago. It should be blooming like in February or March in my area. But quince gets a little apple-like fruit on it that people make quince jelly out of. I don't know if you've ever had quince jelly. They've got some forsythia. They got some lilacs, weigelia, and mock orange. Those 5 things were on the list. Those are all early spring flowering things, and typically with those items, you're going to prune them after they bloom. And so those 5 items, flowering quince, forsythia, lilacs, weigelia, mock orange. Those 5 items, you can prune them hard after they bloom. I would, with like something like a quince or a forsythia, if they're old and aged and gotten out of hand, I would saw the oldest growth all the way to the ground. I would completely reset them. Leave the newer skinny canes that have come up in the last year, but the oldest, thickest wood that's down near the base, I would saw them right to the ground. I'd get really, really aggressive with them and reset them. You're not going to hurt them at all. But that's those 5 things, and the other thing that was on their list was Rose of Sharon that had gotten too big. And you can go after your Rose of Sharon hard in the late winter. You have to do, Rose of Sharon sets its flower buds after it wakes up in the spring. So as long as you get it before it wakes up in the spring, you can really go after it hard and you can still get some flowers next year. It'll reduce the number you're going to have, but you can do that. So 5 of your plants need to be pruned after they bloom, and Rose of Sharon right at the end of winter before it leaves out. Okay, somebody asked me if they cut back their gardenia in the late winter hard. They've got an 8-foot tall August Beauty gardenia. Will it still bloom next year? Gardenias bloom on new growth, and so as it comes back out, it will bloom, but it will bloom later, and you will probably get a little bit less. I mean, if you're going to go hack something in half, you're probably not going to expect it to be, in a full show, that year. But if you need to get it under control, get it under control. You'll still get flowers, probably not as many. Somebody asked me about I get a lot of questions about, you know, having shrubs in alkaline soils, and I don't have a lot of experience with it because, you know, most things in the Southeast are, you know, acid loving plants. I do know that, you know, they were asking for an evergreen for alkaline soils, and I don't know if that, you know, boxwoods are evergreens, but, you know, a lot of them only get this tall or maybe this tall. But you know, boxwoods do like alkaline soils, so that's one thing I know. Most of the super tough screening things, like Elaeagnus or like ligustrum, those things will do both. If you're looking for something that grows really rapidly to create a screen, that's, you know, those two things will grow in any kind of conditions. Doesn't really matter where you put them. So that would be two suggestions for screening plants. But if you were just looking for, you know, a small growing shrub that's good for alkaline soils, I know boxwoods are. I don't have a lot of experience with it. People would always come into my garden center and go, well, these work with our acid soils. I was like, if I grow anything that doesn't grow in acid soils, I'm going to go out of business. Because all of everything in North Carolina from coast to coast, this was a giant pine forest, and so it's all very low pH soils. Which gets to, real quickly, this next coming week, I'm going to paint this shed, get all the stuff ground up, do some soil testing here before I move too far along, spread out that compost, the 2 bags of compost that are on the driveway. I hope to do all this Monday through Thursday, and you'll see videos for it. Don't know what I'm going to call those videos yet. I might just be landscape renovation part 1 or something like that, and just each day you'll see me from the time I'm taking soil test here and to showing you the chipper and the leaf shredder that I'm using for the for this material, and you know, edging this little bit of turf that I'm leaving back here for now, that kind of thing. All that's going to be done next week, and I don't know what I'm going to call those videos, but you'll see a lot of that on there, and you'll see how low the pH here is in this yard. I'm guessing it's somewhere probably around 5. That would be my guess. We'll see next week. And then somebody asked me, they had seen these bags of compost in a couple videos that I've put up here, and didn't have anything in their area. This company, that's Soil Cube, is in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, and they I've got these 2 bags out here from them. I don't know if there's anything in your area, but I will link down below their information, and so you can, if you're in North Carolina, South Carolina, or Georgia and want to do business with them, or maybe you can get some information off their website and, you know, ask somebody in your area if there's something similar that you can get. I got this question again about the 7 Suns tree, Heptacodium. It's a beautiful flowering tree that I think that Proven Winners has a variety, this 7 Suns variety that they have released. But this person's in zone 9B. Anytime you see something that's listed for this tree is listed for zone 5 to 9. Okay. Anytime I see something that's that cold hardy up into zone 5, and somebody asked me, will it grow in zone 9? It probably won't grow in zone 9 Texas, where you are. It probably grows in zone 9 California. That's typically anything I ever see. Like I say, if I see it goes all the way up to zone 5 and then down to zone 9, I usually assume that zone 9 is not for the Southeast United States, because it's probably too hot in your area for that tree. But it is a beautiful tree, and like I say, I'm getting more and more questions about that plant. But I do think it's probably more likely a zone 5 to 7 plant in the east, and probably 8 and 9 out on the west coast where it doesn't get as hot during the summertime. Somebody asked me if they should mulch their bulbs, and I say yes. Don't go too crazy with it, but one of them, other than insulating the soil, which, you know, tulip bulbs can take more cold than, you know, more cold than anybody that's watching me right now is going to be able to give them under the ground. Before we damage them. The main reason I would want to mulch my bulbs in the wintertime is so that when they come up in the spring, all that henbit and chickweed, about the same time the bulbs are emerging from the ground is when all those late winter weeds kind of take over your yard really quickly. And I wouldn't want that mixed in with my bulbs. So I would mulch them lightly to prevent winter weeds or late winter weeds from making your bulbs look really bad, or having to pull weeds in the spring. So that's the main reason I would do it, just to keep it neat. Somebody asked me about growing lilacs back toward Winston-Salem in North Carolina. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is slightly east of the center. Winston-Salem is slightly west of the center of Raleigh. We're in a spot where all the northern lilacs just don't do very well. It's one thing that you guys can grow in the north that we just struggle with down here, and really part of it's humidity, because you know they get some funky problems with in humid conditions, and then of course it's just too hot. But there is you can grow a Miss Kim lilac or Korean lilac. Would be fine. Winston-Salem is probably getting toward where you can grow other types of lilacs, but I think it's still too hot there. So you know, if you want a lilac and you're somewhere in the Piedmont of North Carolina or South Carolina or Georgia, Miss Kim is probably the one to grow. I've got a video on the channel for it. There's one in the front yard here that I'm actually going to transplant to the backyard. You guys will see that at some point. And then somebody asked me if I was taking landscape jobs at this point, and I do some landscape jobs, but I do them for people that I've worked for in the past, or that I know in some way or another. I just made that decision a long time ago. I was kind of over making new making new customers, and so when I landscape now, it's because of it's going back to an existing account, or going, you know, somebody that I've worked for in the past moves, or that kind of thing. So that's where I am with that at this point in my life. So thank you guys very much for watching, and like I say, this next week you're going to see this really progress quite a bit, and hopefully the paint goes on this. The only reason I haven't painted it yet, I've got the paint in the house, but the only reason I haven't painted it is just because it's too cold for latex paint when it's 30 degrees outside. But I'll get that done next week, and this whole backdrop, hopefully this whole backdrop of this backyard will start looking better pretty quickly. Thanks for watching.